At last! Okay, sorry about that rough start there, folks. This is my first time doing a live stream with expert broadcaster, and there's a couple of tricky sorry about that rough start there, folks, to get it to work correctly. And so I got it working. Great. So we've got a great show for you tonight. A lot of things going on. This week has really been loaded with stuff. So many things happening on so many different fronts. I'm not going to be able to talk about that absolutely incredible press conference Trump had today because I was out while it was going on. I wasn't able to watch it, but I've heard that it was spectacular. Acosta's on Twitter right now still whining about it. So I heard it went off somewhere. They're saying that was a campaign rally. He can't do that. President Trump can't hold a campaign rally in the White House Rose Garden. He cannot do that. And then he took their questions and he roasted them when he took their questions. So it was awesome. I'll have to save that for later because I didn't get to watch it. But we do have 7 topics to discuss tonight. First of all, Justice Ginsburg being hospitalized with an infection, and they're being really vague what she's infected, what this infection is. And then the story that broke this afternoon about all the fake numbers coming out of Florida on the COVID positive testing. It turns out that many of these labs, when people went back and checked, that these numbers have been vastly overinflated. So for the past 2 weeks, this massive COVID spike in Florida and in Texas that we've been hearing about is very likely not real. Okay. Third subject is going to be Trump's DACA amnesty. Caught several, supposedly conservative influencers freaking out the other day because they say Trump is about to grant amnesty to all the DACA kids, and we'll be going over that. The fourth subject will be federal executions. The first federal execution in 17 years took place today. And I'm going to explain why this demonstrates that there has been a vast sea change in the U.S. judiciary since Trump became president. Our sixth subject will be why woke sports won't last long. We've just seen the Redskins are changing their names. They're going after the Texas Rangers now. And I'm sure the Cowboys and the Chiefs and the Braves won't be far behind. I'm going to talk a little bit about how this woke sports crap is really not gonna last past the election. And then the seventh and last subject I'm going to discuss is was Glenn Maxwell really a fugitive for the past year? That's our last topic. So, about 2 hours ago, it was revealed that Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who is 87 years old, 2-time cancer survivor, she survived both pancreatic and colon cancer. She's been hospitalized with a vague infection. They won't really say what this infection is. They say that she's receiving antibiotics in the hospital and she's resting comfortably. Now I want to stress something here. I'm not hoping Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. I wish nothing for the best for her. Okay. I just think it's time she retired. She's clearly struggling. She has all kinds of health issues. As we all know, the only reason she's trying to hang on at her age is she wants to give up that seat to another liberal justice. So she's trying to outweigh Trump. Now, those two things are not mutually exclusive. I wish her the best. I hope she fully recovers from this. And man, it was time for her to retire years ago. Those are not mutually exclusive. Okay. So we all remember the absolute lunacy, the blazing hot culture war that erupted, that lasted for months when Justice Anthony Kennedy retired from the court and Trump nominated Brett Kavanaugh to replace him. I got to cover that for the Epoch Times, just how many insane uh, uh, stunts that the Democrats pulled trying to keep Kavanaugh off that court. You had people with fake blood on them erupt in the gallery. You had people showing up wearing Handmaid's Tale costumes. I mean, it was a crazy time, and that was before the Democratic Party entered its current bang at the moon crazy stage that it's in now. This was 2 years ago. Okay, they're even crazier now, even more insane now than they were 2 years ago. And if Justice Ginsburg, if she has a health event, a health crisis, and Trump ends up, even before this election gets here, he ends up nominating a replacement. Um, as crazy as things have been, they're going to get even crazier. I knew this 4 months to the election were going to be very tough to get through. The gaslighting was going to be relentless. It was going to be nonstop. And as more time went by, it was going to grow increasingly desperate. And so just adding Ginsburg having a health issue into the mixer is just going to raise a hysteria level for Democrats. It's already at 11 to 11. It's going to raise it even higher. So a lot of people are hoping that Trump will nominate Amy Coney Barrett. And I think he would be very smart to nominate a woman this time. He would be very smart to nominate somebody that is very articulate, and also the fact that she's religious, and that the Democrats and the progressive left are being even more insane now in their attacks on religious people. Barrett would make sense, because it would highlight the fact that when it comes to religion, these people are basically lunatics. They can't accurately talk about it. They can't accurately describe it. Now let's talk about this other thing that broke this afternoon. I found out about this by reading a Breitbart article that I'm going to link now. It turns out that 33 labs in the state of Florida were found. Okay, there's some question: what happened here? Did the labs vastly over-report their actual testing numbers, or after the labs reported their numbers, did somebody at a higher level change those numbers? And that's what they're trying to find out right now. What happened here? Because it's breaking news now that all these labs, when they're contacted now, they say, why no, in fact, we didn't report a 76% increase in COVID cases. We didn't report that. We reported a 7% increase. Oh man, where that 76 number came from, I have no idea. And so this is going on right now. That just broke this afternoon. That all these labs, the numbers that are being reported for them are not accurate. And so, if you'll recall, for the past 2 weeks, Governor Cuomo and all these Democrats have been screaming at Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida and Greg Abbott of Texas, screaming at them for opening their states up too soon. Because look at this massive spike of COVID cases that happened. Look at what happened here. You opened up too early, damn it. And look what happened. Your positive cases spiked like this. You were insane. You should have stayed locked down. And the whole time, for the last 2 weeks, I know I wasn't the only one. A lot of people are looking at these numbers and going, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make sense. So, so now it comes out today, somebody decided to go back and check. And what they found out is that all these labs are saying, well, no, that's not what we reported. We didn't find 76% increase. We found a 7% increase. So, and while I was doing a Twitter thread about this, somebody linked a Fox News article to me. This is actually from Fox 35 in Orlando, Florida. This is a news story about a change in reporting COVID cases that the Trump administration made just I'm not sure when it was made. It was recently, but it doesn't take effect until tomorrow, Wednesday. Here's that story from Fox 35 in Orlando. Apparently, the Trump administration wants to change how all of this COVID reporting is done. They want to bypass the CDC for some reason. For some reason, they don't want the CDC playing middleman anymore when it comes to COVID numbers. The Fox story says, Health and Human Services will now collect daily reports about the number of patients these hospitals are treating, how many beds and how many ventilators are available, testing data, and other pandemic-related information. So they're going to be collecting this stuff directly from the states. The CDC is going to be cut out of the loop. So it says in the next paragraph, hospitals previously reported to the CDC's National Healthcare Safety Network, described by the agency as the nation's most widely used healthcare-associated infection tracking system. The CDC is one of the 11 divisions under the HHS and has historically handled this sort of data. Okay, but here's what happened. I think the Trump people figured out some time ago that somebody in the CDC system is cooking the numbers. And they can't trust these numbers coming out of the CDC anymore. They want these hospitals and these labs reporting directly to the Health and Human Services, the HHS. They don't want this stuff coming through the CDC anymore. So what that tells me is they figured out something was up here. The mortality rate keeps dropping. You know, somebody pointed out that in Arizona, they're now adding deaths to the daily death total that happened in April to try to keep the numbers up. You know, so there's all kinds of very troubling things going on out there when it comes to reporting this information. Now, we all know what this is about. This is about the election. Conservative Democrats like Newsom and de Blasio and all these governors out there and Pelosi, they want to keep their states locked down till November. It's really important to them that they keep their states locked down till November. And they screamed at Texas and Florida when we opened up like 2 months ago that we were doing it too soon. It was too soon to open, and we were going to have a massive spike. And you'll remember the incubation time for this virus is about 14 days. So 2 weeks after the reopening, there was no huge spike. And I'm sure you never recall that video of DeSantis just blasting the media. You know, he said there'd be a spike and there wasn't, and we could totally open up this state safely, and we did. You know, okay, and all of a sudden, about 2 weeks ago, so just about 2.5 weeks ago, this massive spike starts happening, and it didn't make any sense. It never made any sense. If the massive spike was going to happen in Texas and Florida, it would have happened about 2 weeks after the reopening. Okay, and so as usual, you know, we got to face this fact that about half the country is Democrat, and they play dirty. And somebody at the CDC said, well, you know what? we need to keep these states locked down for the election. And there was no huge spike in Texas and Florida. And so we're probably not going to get mail-in voting. But thank God we can change that. We can create a huge spike in these red states out of thin air. We can do that right here at the CDC. We can make it happen. There's still a chance we can pull this off. And so they tried it. And, you know, this is how desperate these people are. People could see from the beginning, this doesn't make any sense. What is causing this huge spike? How could this be happening? And they didn't even get away with this for a solid month. It took about 2 weeks and the truth came out. And the Trump administration figured out what was going on, what these people were doing. And now, as that Fox 35 report says, they're going to bypass the CDC altogether. They're going to get their numbers straight from the hospitals and the labs themselves. The CDC is being cut out of the loop. That's brilliant. They don't even have to spend any time trying to figure out who it was at the CDC that was altering these numbers to try to drive a narrative about COVID spikes in the red states. They don't even have to do that. They just bypass them. And there's nothing they can do about it. Chief Trump has the authority to do that. He can say, yeah, okay, Health and Human Services, I don't want you taking the reporting from the CDC anymore. I want you to go straight to the source, cut out the middleman. And they're starting this tomorrow. And there's nothing the CDC and Democrats can do about it. But I think in 2 weeks we're going to look back and it's going to come out, you know, that this whole huge COVID spike in Texas and Florida was fake. It was never real. The only way they could try to keep their COVID pandemic going for the past 2.5 to 3 weeks was by faking the numbers. And, oh yeah, and Cuomo in New York has been especially insufferable for the past week. Every day he comes out and he points at those numbers, at those spikes in Florida and Texas, and he attacks DeSantis and he attacks Abbott. You know, and this is the guy who killed over 6,000 seniors in his own state because he ordered COVID-infected people into the nursing homes. And the media covers for his ass, okay? And he uses that cover as an opportunity to attack these other governors who got it right, you know, and touting these fake numbers, declaring that they caused a huge spike in their own state, and he's doing the smart thing by keeping his state locked down. You see, he's being smart. And so I'm looking forward to the next week, you know, when the story fully comes out about how all these numbers were fake, and Cuomo's going to be left holding the bag. You know, he thought he had covered to attack these other governors, you know, when he had more deaths than anybody in America in his state. He completely mismanaged this, and he was using fake testing numbers to attack these other red states, you know. And so this was all about getting mail-in voting, convincing people they needed to stay locked down. That's what this was all about. It was all about convincing people that mail-in voting has to happen. It has to happen, okay? Because there's no other safe way to vote. My God, man, look at this spike. Look at this COVID spike. We have to stay locked down, damn it. We have to do mail-in voting, okay? And it didn't even last a full month. It's already been exposed. Okay, so, and the case numbers is irrelevant. That is how many people actually get sick, how many people actually have to be hospitalized, how many people actually die from this virus. You know, that's the real thing. But they're doing all this hand-waving stuff, you know, about case numbers. And it turns out they're faking the case numbers to begin with. So that's where we're at. So by the end of this month, we're going to look back and see that the whole thing was a farce. Greg Abbott ordered everybody to wear a mask. You know what I have to carry with me? I carry a mask. I don't know where I put it. Every time I go out into a restaurant or something, so they'll let me in, I have to put a mask on. As soon as I'm in the door, I take it off, because it's just that I have to have one to enter the building. Okay, fine. But I have to do that now because Greg Abbott was shown a bunch of numbers, and he freaked out, and he ordered this mask rule for all Texas counties. And he didn't lock the state down again, but he said, well, I have to wear a mask, and there supposedly was a huge spike of people being hospitalized in Texas. And the people in the hospitals came out and immediately countered that, saying these are people coming in for elective procedures. These are not COVID patients that are causing, the hospitals to be at 95% capacity. These are all the people that wanted to have elective procedures from January to May and June, and they weren't able to get into the hospital. That's what's causing the number of beds to be so high. They are so desperate that they tried to fake the COVID numbers, and they already got caught. Trump's already wise to what they did. The Trump administration's already taken steps to cut the CDC out of the loop. So, kiss my ass, Dr. Fauci. Okay, now the third topic for tonight. This is one that really gets me upset. So I'm sorry if I start maybe cursing just a little bit. Okay. Most of you know that back in 2015, when Trump announced he was running for president, I was never Trump from 2015 all the way till after the election night. Okay, I was a never Trump guy. And I was convinced Trump would make the worst president in history. No, I can't tell you. Okay, is anybody out there more surprised at what a fantastic president Trump has turned out to be than me? I have no idea who that is. Okay. But one of the things I noticed back then, even when I was never Trump, was how many of the conservative pundits and influencers out there couldn't accurately talk about his DACA plan. Even when I was never Trump, I was watching people like Ann Coulter and Michelle Malkin and Sonovich and others. They could not accurately talk about what Trump's actual DACA plan was. They kept mischaracterizing it. They kept lying about it. Okay, and then after I became pro-Trump, they were still doing this. They criticizing him over the wall, not putting the wall up fast enough, and he was trying to get a deal done where they would end chain migration. Okay, Trump, in exchange for getting wall funding and ending chain migration and some other things, that he would allow DACA kids to go to self-deport out of the country, go back to Mexico, or whichever country that they were brought from, and then file to legally return, and a pathway to citizenship would be provided to them, a pathway they had to follow that would take about 12 years for them to complete it, and then they would become full citizens. Okay, that's the name people gave to that was snapback amnesty, which isn't really accurate. Snapback amnesty or touchback amnesty is not really accurate. It's more like snapback pathway to citizenship. Okay, amnesty. See, you want to be careful with the terminology you use. A lot of people are deceptive with their language. Amnesty is when you just sit there on your fat ass and somebody waves their magic wand over you and says, presto changeo, without you ever having to do anything. You are now a full American citizen. Okay? That is amnesty. You requiring somebody to leave the United States and go to the consulate in their country of origin and file to return legally. And once they have filed to return legally and they have legally returned, they are able to pursue a 12-year program at the end of which, at the end of that 12-year program, they can have full citizenship. That's not amnesty. I don't care what Cernovich or Coulter or Markin or any of those other people tell you. That is not amnesty. It's not the same thing. So I was watching, I was sent a link with a video in it where Steve Bannon and Cernovich were discussing what they call Trump's DACA amnesty. You know, Trump is going to give, he's just going to give all the DACA kids amnesty. He's going to make them full citizens. They don't even have to do anything. He's just going to give it to them. And if he does that, if he betrays his base like this, nobody's going to come vote for him. He will have betrayed his base, and all the voters are going to stay home, blah, 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 blah. You know, I'm watching this, I'm going, what the hell? Okay, this is the exact same crap they were saying 3 years ago. You know, 3.5 years ago, when I became Never Trump, I actually had to, you see, I was a new convert. I had just become pro-Trump, and I'm having to explain to people who say they've been pro-Trump for years. No, wait, that's not his DACA plan. His DACA plan is touchback, the touchback thing. That's not what you're being told, okay? You have to leave the country and come back. Oh, they leave the country and they file to come back legally. Nothing says that just because they filed to come back, they're allowed to come back, okay? But Trump is not trying to crawfish these kids. He's saying, okay, look, I want to give you a pathway to legal citizenship, but you have to do something to get it. I'm not just going to hand it to you. You have to do something. You have to leave and file to return. And then you're given a 12-year pathway to citizenship. There are steps you have to follow. And at the end of that pathway, if you followed all the steps, you're granted citizenship, and now you can vote legally. Yeah. But there are a lot of people out there, conservative influences, they make their money stoking panic and outrage at Trump by lying about what he's done. My pinned tweet says, the capital you function on in the news business is trust, and every single time your readers and your viewers figure out that you sold the lie to them, you lose more of that trust. And when you run out, you've run out. And you are not getting it back. So when I watch Ann Coulter do this, I watch Michelle Markham do this, I watch Michael Cernovich do this, I watch that fat, sloppy creep Steve Bannon do this, okay? It really pisses me off. You see somebody got, I'm pro-Trump, I'm pro-Trump. Yeah? How about you accurately describe what his actual plan is then? You know, why do you insist on lying about it? And there's people out there that think Trump's plan should be just to take all these kids and dump them in Mexico and leave them there. Ha, 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 ha. Okay, that shows me that you never understood Trump. He's not going to do that to these kids. Like, most of them had no choice about being in this country. Their parents moved them here. Okay? If they don't have any legal status, he's giving them a way to fix that. But they have to do something. So every conservative pundit out there that tells you Trump is going to wave some kind of magic wand and give full citizenship to these DACA kids, okay, they have that proves that they have a vested interest in lying to you. They don't respect you. They're not telling you the truth. And so it's up to you to decide if you're going to continue listening to these people or not. So Trump is a hell of a deal maker. He found a way to solve this problem. That if everybody does the smart thing, see, it fixes it. It fixes it. These kids, through no fault of their own, are in a country where they have no legal status. They can't vote. There's lots of other things they can't do. They're not citizens. Okay? Now, there's a certain segment of the very far right wing that says deport them all. You know, even though they grew up in America and they don't remember Mexico, ship their ass to Mexico and leave them there forever, you know. And some people were convinced that's what Trump was going to do. And then all of a sudden they find out about the touchback plan and they freak out. Oh my God, he lied to me. No, you never understood it. You never understood what he was saying. People lied to you and they told you what his plan was, but you never heard him say that. You never heard Trump say, yeah, I'm going to deport over 1 million kids to Mexico. I'm going to dump them there. I'm going to leave them. He never said that. So take that for what it's worth. That's my take on this DACA thing that came out today. You know, oh, and when the Supreme Court ruled against him, they said, you didn't try to end DACA the correct way. Trump said, okay, fine. I'll file again. And he did. This was announced last week. He's filing again to end DACA. But that brought up the question of what's he going to do with the DACA kids. And all of a sudden, the same usual suspects from 3 years ago, they're here with the same bullshit. They're talking about Trump is going to give them amnesty. You know, so if there's nothing new under the sun, the same people that were lying about Trump's DACA plan 2 years ago or 3 years ago, they're lying about it now. So they haven't changed a bit. Our next fun subject, federal executions. Now, that's not really a fun subject to discuss, but okay, Americans overwhelmingly support the death penalty. They do. In many of the states, they have their own state execution. And federal executions have been the law for many, many years now. But did you know, on the whole time that federal executions have been on the books, there's only been, up until today, there had only been 3 all of a sudden, I'm drawing a blank on that creep that did the Oklahoma City bombing. McVeigh, and a drug kingpin named Garza, I believe his name was, the cat, like 30 people whacked as part of running his drug ring, and some guy that killed his girlfriend and her whole family. And 3 up until today. And they all happened under George Bush, McVeigh and these 2 other guys, 2001 to 2003. And then ever since 2003, okay, the activist liberal judges that were dominating our federal court system in this country, they decreed there will be, even though it's legal, it's there on the books, they weren't going to allow any more federal executions. And that's what happened for 17 years. 17 years that went on. Even though there were Okay, from 2003 till about 2010, they had about 50 people on federal death row. They added another 10 or 15 guys in the last 6 or 7 years. So there's now 61 people on federal death row. Uh, but the federal judges said there will be no federal executions. We will not allow it, even though it's the law. We'll always find some way to keep them from happening. And they have. Okay. So nothing illustrates the sea change that Trump and McConnell have done in the federal judiciary than what happened today in Indiana, where this creep who's been sentenced to death in 1999 for murdering a family, including children, he was finally put to death. But we saw over the past 3 or 4 days, once again, okay, they had to work for this. They had to work to make this happen because 2 or 3 federal judges consistently tried to stop it. They kept filing injunctions. They kept trying to find reasons to delay it. And Trump and Barr at the DOJ did a fantastic job. He overcame every obstacle that the liberal activist judges tried to throw in the way of executing this guy today. So that demonstrates, that's Trump and Barr demonstrating that the rule of law is making a comeback. So I made the point of saying twice so far that federal executions are legal. That's what the law is. The law said, you know, if you commit this crime and you're committed and you're convicted of this crime and you're sentenced to death, you will be put to death. And we have a federal death row, and you'll be sent to the federal death row in that state. You know, but the federal judges have said, yeah, okay, sure, it's the law, but we'll make sure that it's the law is never carried out. It'll never happen. And for 17 years, they got their way. 17 years. They kept any federal executions from happening. And then when everything was like, see, Barr just didn't get up out of bed one day, scratch his ass and go, hey, you know what? I think I'll start scheduling some executions. Yeah, it's been 17 years since we had one. You know, we start having them again, you know. That's not what happened. There was careful preparation that went into this. Years worth. Probably more than 3.5 years worth. Okay, so this wasn't Barr just getting up and making some snap decision, okay. They knew that they were ready to turn back all the challenges that were going to be made when they tried this. And yes, they were right. Now, right away, when Barr announced, I think it was about, 3 weeks ago, that these executions were scheduled, and it was going to happen in just the next month, okay, you saw liberal activists and liberal judges just leap into action and say, okay, yes, here's our chance to stop this, okay? And Barr and Trump's team, they knew this was coming. They knew what these guys were going to do. They were ready for them. And so they got 2 delays, but the last delay didn't even last 12 hours. Okay, I suspected when that last judge filed the injunction late yesterday afternoon that it would not take long for Barr to go straight to the Supreme Court and get a ruling, and he did. And by the time I got up this morning and checked the news, they'd already executed that guy. You know, they didn't hang around and wait. You know, when they got the stay and the Supreme Court said, yes, you can do it. They probably within 30 minutes they had that guy in the death chamber. I was gonna wait for some other liberal justice, in Washington D.C. or Alabama or Rhode Island or wherever to suddenly file a new injunction. No, they got that guy taken care of quick. And there's another one scheduled for tomorrow. We'll see what kind of, if they're going to try any more tricks. There's 3 more guys scheduled to be executed in the next the next month, 2 more this month, and then 1 more in August. So, but see, this demonstrates the sea change that happened. You know, if Trump came into office in 2017 and tried this right away, there's no way it would have happened. If he and Sessions had announced in 2017, we're going to restart federal executions, it never would have come off. Kennedy was still on the court, the Supreme Court. You still had too many. We only had 2 liberal justices, activist justices, file injunctions to stop this. How many would there have been 3 years ago if they tried this in 2017? A dozen? Okay. But what people need to focus on is that Trump and McConnell have been filling the judiciary with constitutionalist judges, originalist justices. The activists have been retired, they're being replaced. You know, and that's why it is so important, this Ginsburg, because I tell you what, there's news that Clarence Thomas wants to retire. Ginsburg is near the end, one way or another, you know, of her long and illustrious career on the court. This next term, Trump could get to replace 2 or 3 more justices. And he's already got 2 on there. He could end up with as many as 4 or 5 that he's handpicked. You know, and so the left is going to go and start waving bonkers. So stopping federal executions, that was one way the left was saying, we're in control here. We run this town. We run tanks. That's what they say in the Caribbean, in the islands I lived there for many years. We run tanks. Okay, we run tanks. You don't run tanks, we run tanks. And we say no executions, and we prove to you who runs things because you don't get any federal executions. And that's a sign who's in control. That's a sign who's running the federal system. Trump or the resistance. Okay, and yesterday the resistance took it right in the ass. Okay, because they said this will never happen. We will never allow federal executions to resume. And Trump and Barr said, okay then, guard your loins. So we'll see if this execution comes out tomorrow. See if there's another judge out there that feels like getting cute and filing another injunction. But it's been demonstrated to them now. I understand what this is about. This just isn't about making sure that these child murderers pay for their crimes. It's about demonstrating something to people, to the right people, who for too long have said, we don't care what the law says. Go the law. We run things here. We say this isn't happening. These executions are not happening. Okay? They just had it proven to them that that's no longer the case. They no longer run things. Trump and Barr run things. The law runs things. Now, okay, look. If you don't like the fact that it's legal to have federal executions, change the law then. Don't just sit there like these liberal justices do. Don't just sit there on your lazy ass and say, I'm not going to change the law. I'm just going to prevent you from ever carrying it out. I'm going to prevent you from following the law. You don't like the law? Change it. Don't keep coming up with one bullshit excuse after another why you won't follow what the law said. So see, that's what liberals do. That's what rule of law is all about for conservatives. And Trump and Barr have just demonstrated rule of law is back. Okay, the law is going to be enforced. And if you don't like the death penalty, you have things you can do. You can lobby to change the law. You can convince the voters. You can go to Congress and you can try to introduce bills and get bills signed into law. Okay, there's things you can do. But the judiciary is not supposed to be a place where people sit on their fat ass and just make one frivolous injunction after another to keep the law from being carried out, to keep preventing the rule of law. So that's what this execution thing is about. It's about the rule of law coming back into force. The people who've been playing around with the judicial system to prevent the rule of law, they just had it demonstrated to them they're no longer going to be allowed to do that. So that's why it matters that these criminals, these child murderers, can now be executed. They should have been executed a long time ago. But certain people decided they were never going to let that happen. And they just got rickrolled. Okay. On to our next subject. Woke sports won't last long. Yeah, okay. The last 2 days, we see our last sports-related news. The Washington Redskins are going to change their name. They're going to drop their logo. They're going to come up with a new logo and a new name. Okay, look. A lot of people will miss the point of this. That's why I did a thread this morning. Now, let me try to link that thread here. Let me see if I can find it. Woke sports is another sign of the Marxist attempt to completely dominate American culture. It's not just about some stupid sports team changing its name or its logo. So it's about that sort. I just linked it. Okay, this is about complete cultural dominance. That's what it's about. They have to put their imprint on every aspect of American life. All of it. All of our culture. And sports are a vital part of American culture. So, forcing the Redskins to change their name, going after the Texas Rangers, okay, to change their name, and they'll probably be after the Cowboys next, Okay, this is about complete cultural dominance by the Marxists. Nothing, not even a sports team's name, can be left standing in the long march through our American institutions. They want to completely whip up American culture, whip up America's founding, and replace it with something better. They say our culture is riddled with too much slavery and hatred and whiteness. That ugly, sick, icky whiteness. And misogyny and capitalism and Christianity and all kinds of that stuff. No, it's all got to be whipped up and replaced with something better. So, and all these masked goons running around our streets, burning down black businesses and looting stores and destroying cop cars, they're just the people. They're just the people to replace that old American founding with something better, because they're so wise and they're so loving and tender and compassionate, you see. So we should be listening to them. Yeah, so it's folks like Bill de Blasio, Jacob Frey in Minneapolis, Bill de Blasio in New York City, Keith Bottoms in Atlanta, Mario Bow Wow Wow Wowzer in D.C. They're going to decide, with the aid of their mass Marxist goon squads who are running amok in our cities, what our common American culture and heritage is going to be replaced with. Because they're so special, you see. They have this amazing, they're so much better than the founding fathers. They're so much smarter and wiser and more in touch with their humanity. I had to work really hard to say that with a straight face, so I want you to appreciate that. Okay, so this is about cultural dominance. It's not just about some stupid sports team changing its name. Okay, there's everything they find an American culture that binds Americans together. And I tell you, that's one thing sports does. Hey, sports binds us together. Everything they find that where Americans are coming together, the Marxists got to jump in there and destroy that. They got to destroy it. So, sports, what does that do? Okay, it's true. America used to be a segregated society. But since the 70s, you go to a sports stadium, do you find whites and blacks sitting in separate parts of the stadium? Do you find men and women sitting apart from each other? No, you find people from all races, classes, and creeds all sitting together, enjoying something together or playing something together. Okay, and the Marxists watch that and they say, that makes me sick to my stomach. I've got to get in there and drive these people apart from each other. I've got to drive them apart. So this is our whole program. Sports is just one part of it. But they got to get Americans fighting each other and divided. And see, our common American heritage, our common American culture is what binds us to one another. Black Americans, white Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans were all united by that common culture. And the Marxists see that as a threat. They need to destroy that common culture. They need blacks and whites and blacks and Hispanics and blacks and Asians. They need them all separate from each other, or even better, fighting each other, at each other's throats. Because that is an advantage to the Marxists. That's what they want to see. They want to see us all separated and fighting each other. And so they're coming, like I said in the thread that I did this morning, they finally, after years of trying, you can see signs, but they were testing the doorknob, They finally picked the lock and they got in there into the sports world. And now they're telling all these teams to change their names, and the NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball and all these sports leagues are listening to them and responding to what they're being told to do. So the Washington Redskins were told, you need to change the name. Great, they changed the name. Well, do you find out what the next step is? Okay, after the Washington Redskins changed their name and their logo, this is what will happen next. You can't play any of the NFL films showing that awful logo, showing the team with that awful name. You're going to have to edit and alter every NFL film from their Super Bowl wins in the past, and you're going to have to change it so the name Redskins and the Redskins logo on the side of the helmets isn't seen. I'm not joking. That's where they're going to go next. And so, because once you give in, okay, you can't show the Redskins. You have to change the team name and the logo. That's not just not for today and the future. No. These guys are all about rewriting the past. They live to rewrite the past. And you watch, this will happen. They'll go back and say, okay, every single Super Bowl video about the Redskins being in the Super Bowl, you have to go back and Photoshop it. You have to edit it. So the Redskins logo isn't visible. It isn't seen. You got to blur it out. I'm not kidding. They will do that. And so these people have no brakes. They'll never stop. It's like, great, you did that. Okay, you need to change this, and this. And once you're done changing this, and this, you need to change that, and that. And they never quit. Past, present, and future. The party must control all of it. So once you give them the foot in the door in the present, they're going to immediately start rewriting your past. And this is what the Redskins are about to discover. And I guarantee you, this is the demand that's coming next. The demand that's coming next is you must, you cannot air any of those old Redskins videos without altering them. You cannot do that. It would be racist for you to air those videos without changing them. So this is why woke sports won't last. See, we're in a time now where madness is being embraced. Absolute lunacy is being embraced by corporations, sports leagues. They're embracing lunacy, okay? But the good news is this is only for a short time. We've only got 4 more months to go, because remember, what is all this about? It's really about getting Trump. It's about getting rid of Trump. Once Trump gets reelected, okay, you're going to see 90% of the wind go out of their sails. And they realize they're saddled with Trump for 4 more years. 4 more years they're going to have to deal with this guy. And so it'll build and build and build. But the goal, okay, you know what I think about Trump? Trump has got this in the bag. The Democrats are running a dementia patient, okay? A guy they have to hide in the basement. They bring him out for tightly scripted media events that still manage to demonstrate that this guy's got problems, okay? There are millions of Democrats that the last 6 months, 7 months now, they've got a brutal demonstration, a brutal lesson of what happens when you elect the wrong people to run your city and your state. You know, right now, Cuomo's saying, he's trying to attack Ron DeSantis and make it look like he did a fantastic job and DeSantis totally screwed up Florida. You got Newsom instituting a new lockdown in California, which is very likely based on fake numbers. So there will be a price for all of this, folks, I'm telling you. Hey, Trump had to cancel that New Hampshire rally because of the weather. All right, but more campaign rallies are coming, I'm telling you. Trump is going to keep going to states like New Hampshire and these blue states, and the media's going to say, he's wasting his time doing that. What the hell is he doing going to this blue state? He's not going to flip that state. He's crazy. But they're wrong. There are a lot of states in play because there are millions of voters that weren't participating in politics, that weren't paying attention. But the last 7 months, they've been forced to pay attention because they're watching their governors and their mayors act like absolute lunatics, okay? And they keep acting crazy, insane things. They're standing down the police department. They're talking about defunding the police department. They're talking in some cities like Minneapolis, disbanding the police department. While their crime, the violent crime is exploding through the roof. And their businesses have been looted, or their friends' businesses have been looted, and they're forced to stay shut down. And they're watching the city officials and the state officials let these mobs run amok every night in their cities, and their police department can't do anything about it. Okay, I'm telling you, not everybody in Seattle is a flag-waving Marxist commie, all right? There are a lot of people that were detached, that weren't paying attention, that they figured it wasn't worth the hassle of getting involved. The sicko commies were running everything there. They just stayed out of it, okay? They've now had it proven to them that they need to get involved as a matter of survival. They don't have an option. They don't have an option of staying out anymore. They've seen what happens when you let absolute lunatics run your city and your state. Staying disinterested and detached is not an option anymore. They've gotten woke. Okay, they're woke now. The right kind of woke. Okay, now a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't get political. I don't pay attention to any of that." All right, and so they didn't pay attention during the primaries, and they didn't pay attention they didn't go vote when the election came around. Okay, and they say, "Well, it'll all work itself out." And since January, they've learned a brutal lesson that this happened because they weren't involved. This happened because like 80% of the people that can vote didn't go vote, and a tiny minority of radicals managed to get in there and put exactly the wrong people in a position where they are making important, crucial decisions for an entire state and community, and these people are what I like to call ideological lunatics. They're clearly the wrong people. So, and Trump is an excellent salesman. Trump knows how to make the sale, okay? He's got 3.5 more months to make the sale. He's going to visit these blue states, and I want to be on the record for this and tell you right now, when he's visiting places like California, and he's visiting places like Michigan and Minnesota, and they're going to say, this guy's crazy. What's he doing, wasting his time going to that state? That state's not in play. He should just stick to the battlegrounds. But they don't understand how badly the Democrats have screwed this up. Okay? Those states are going to be played. Right now, hey, what's happening in California right now? Newsom is locking the state down again. And the teachers' unions are saying, they just came out, the LA Teachers Union, which is just announced that it's closing its schools, it will not be reopening the schools, just released a wish list, a progressive wish list. They say, we need to see all this happen before we even consider opening the schools back up. They're holding all these kids and their parents hostage. They're doing the same damn thing Pelosi was doing with the relief bill. They're holding parents and their kids hostage, saying, you have to give us this progressive wish list or we're going to keep the schools closed. And you're going to pay, if the schools are still closed, you still have to pay full funding for the schools. That's exactly where they're headed. Now, Betsy DeVos came out the other day and said, if the schools don't open, the parents shouldn't have to pay for it. So the Democrats walked right into a trap there. If the schools close down, why should the parents be paying for the school salaries and all this stuff if the schools aren't even open? Why are the salaries still being paid? So she said that money should be given to the parents, let them decide. School choice, take their child to a charter school. Okay, if the public schools they close, but the charter schools and private schools are open, they should have the option to send their child to a private school. Now you talk about a freak out, I'm sure as soon as Nancy DeVos said that, Betsy DeVos, as soon as Betsy DeVos says that, you have the liberals everywhere freaking out because they realize this is going to look bad. But this is essentially what they're going to be arguing. We're keeping the schools closed, but you have to keep the money coming. That's our money. You can't stop sending us our money. That's our money. We don't care if the kids aren't being educated in our public school. We deserve that money. That's our money, and you're going to hand it over. That's basically what they're saying. And I'm telling you, there are plenty of parents, many of them who voted for Democrats all their lives, who just had their mouths forced open and somebody stuffed a red pill in them. I'm telling you that the Democrats have reached a point where there will right now, I'm sure, but certainly by November, there will be nobody they will not have epically pissed off with their behavior. And at the end, they got that doddering dementia patient. I know people still say, sure, somebody else is coming, by the convention they'll replace him. Okay, hey, maybe so. But they're going to have a doddering dementia patient saying, vote for me because I'm not Trump. And so all these millions of people in these blue states are going to have to sit down there and make a choice now. Do I want to reward the Democratic Party that's been actively screwing with me, my family, my business, my church, my community? Do I want to reward these people for what they've been doing to me this November? Or do I want to seek an alternative? And I'm telling you, there are millions of people out there in blue states, Democrats, who had it up to here with these lunatics. They've seen a lot in the last 6 months that has absolutely blown their minds. And Trump is going to take full advantage of that. So I'm telling you, California is in play. California is in play. They're announcing to the parents of California, we're going to keep your school district shut down, but you're going to hand over every penny. That's our money, Jack, and you're going to hand it over. That's what's going to happen. And when they do that, you're going to see parents that have had enough of this crap. They already had enough of this crap months ago. They're just going to keep piling it on and piling it on and piling it on for another 4 months. So I keep telling people, you know, there's a growing white hot intense rage out there. But it ain't Republicans in the red states where this anger is growing. It's Democrats in the blue states. They're having I live in Texas. I'm not affected by a lot of this. We're mostly sane here, okay? And then in Texas, you know, the governor's done a couple things recently, but I think he got fooled by some numbers somebody showed him. And that's already been exposed, so he'll make a self-correction there. Okay, but I live in a red state. We're mostly fine here. I can't imagine what it's like in California or Minnesota or New York City right now. It's insane there. The cops are being stood down. The mobs are being allowed to run amok through the cities. The governors won't send in the National Guard. Remember, that mayor in Atlanta went to the news cameras and talked about how pissed off she was that the governor sent in the National Guard. Emilio Bowser in D.C., when Trump sent the federal troops, the federal units in there, how she wanted those federal units out of her city. You know, so the goal is keep their cities locked down, keep their police departments stood down, and let the mobs run amok. That's the strategy. And so they're still doing that. I'm telling you, sane people in these blue states are watching this, and there is a growing rage. And then when the women get around, what are they being told? You can't vote for Trump. You can't vote for the orange Batman. You have to vote for this doddering, babbling dementia patient because he's not Trump. Or something's wrong with you, okay? I don't think they make that so. You think they make that so? Because I don't think they make that so. You have to vote for this guy because he's not Trump. That's not going to work. I don't care who tells you. Oh my God, look at the poll. Yeah, okay, look. This is one of my pet peeves. The people that tell me they don't believe the fake news media, they don't believe the fake news polls, but that's all they watch all day. I don't even watch ABC News or CBS News. I don't even go to their blog. I don't follow the polls. I don't follow any of that stuff. Why would I? I know they're lying. Why would I follow them? So this is where everything's headed. 4 more months of relentless gaslighting, trying to convince people that this dementia patient is a viable presidential candidate. Meanwhile, they're stacking insanity on insanity on insanity on families in the blue states and these former Democratic voters. I mean, by the time November 3rd gets here, they're going to have their track shoes on. They're going to have their track shoes on. And they're going to have the alarm set. And the moment the polls open, they're going to shoot out of their house like a track star, running a 100-yard dash. And they're going to run straight down to the voting booth because we're going to have in-person voting this year. I have no doubt Trump's going to make that happen. Okay? And they're going to vote for Trump. Trump was running unopposed and the primary voting records were being set, okay? All the voting enthusiasm is on the GOP side. So they're trying to push mail-in voting, and they were trying to push it the last couple of weeks by trying to fake a huge spike in COVID cases in Texas and Florida, and they just got caught. Okay, they've proven that this is what happened in Florida. Okay, I can't say they've proven it in Texas yet, but I suspect that's coming. They've proven that it happened in Florida. All right, and so there's like, we're still in the middle of July. Okay, there's 3.5 months to go to the election. They've already been caught, and Trump's going around the CDC. He's going to make sure Health and Human Services gets the report straight from the hospitals and the labs. And the CDC is being cut out of the loop. So, okay, this is Trump. This is another example of Trump having agency. He figures out what they're doing. He responds to it, okay? So many people try to convince you of the idea Trump is some kind of moron. Oh, he's passive. He can't see what they're doing. We smart, intelligent, conservative pundits on social media and on their TV, we understand what's going on, and he doesn't. Okay, I watch conservative pundits sell to their audience all day long how clueless they think Trump is, how blind they think Trump is, how behind the curve they think Trump is. And they're wrong about that. Trump figured out what they were doing. He's already responded. It goes into effect tomorrow. The CDC is cut out of the loop. So whatever other fancy tricks they're going to have to come up with to try to keep pumping up the COVID numbers, they better get busy. Trump already sussed this one out, and he's already responded to it. So, yeah, it's going to suck the next 4 months, the next 3.5 months, okay? It's going to suck. The gas lines, they're not going to stop. The gas lines will keep going. They'll keep stacking insane demands on insane demands. It just came out yesterday and told all the parents in LA County that they're expected to fully fund the schools. And if they want those schools while they're closed, they're expected to fully fund all those schools while they're closed. If they want those schools to open up again, then they have to give in to a progressive wish list, an old list of progressive demands. And then they'll open the schools back up. So they're trying a hostage situation. So I'm telling you, by November, Democrats are going to be so pissed, I don't care what kind of tricks the Democrats try. So many of their former voters and people who weren't even voting, this is why polls are useless. Even people who never voted can't wait to go vote in November. They can't wait to pay these goddamn arrogant pricks back for what they've been doing. See, if I had a family and I lived in Seattle and I had to live through all this crap that they forced their citizens in Seattle to live through, if I lived in Portland and I had to live through all this crap I watch on the TV, on the Woke channel every night, the crap going down in downtown Portland, Oregon, if I had to live in Atlanta and now watch my mayor stand the police down and try to keep me locked in my house while they're letting BLM and Antifa mobs do whatever they want, on the streets, I'd be so pissed. I could not wait to go tell these people what I thought of them at the ballot box. I'm telling you, that's what's coming. Now, people do nothing but sit down and come up with these fool porn to try to get you all panicked. You know, this poll says Biden has a 93% chance. Yeah, I don't care. This poll says they'll never stop. They're going to do this through the election itself. They're always going to be looking to try to present you with reasons to believe Trump is not only losing, he's losing badly. Another example of this, Tracy Beans brought this up the other day. She showed me, see, I don't get any of those GOP texts, those GOP fundraising texts that everybody's complaining about. I don't get any of those because I'm smart and clever enough to never give them my information. I hide it, see. They don't know about me. They can't find me. So I don't get any of these histrionic texts from the GOP, so I was unaware of what was happening. And Tracy Beans sent me some of these. Well, she put them up in a thread that she did. Some of the text messages she's been getting. They're pretty bad. They're trying to guilt and shame people into donating, and they're not really being subtle about it. I'll tell you what's happening there. Okay, this is simple. Okay, Trump and his people, see, it's different from the Trump campaign. The Trump campaign text messages and the fundraising text is very different from how the GOP is doing it. Now, let me explain why that is. Okay, Trump and his people are DC outsiders. They're not from the Beltway. Pascal's from San Antonio. Okay, Trump is from New York. Kushner is from New York. Okay, they are transplants to DC. They're not from there. Okay, now with the GOP, the people running that GOP account that's doing the fundraising for the GOP and sending out these text messages, that's a very different animal. These are all DC political consultants. These people spend all day watching the fake news media. They spend all day looking at fake news media polls. They spend all day immersed in that, immersed in the DC culture. And so that's why they're freaking out. And the text messages they're sending out to everybody reflects the fact that they're freaking out because they think they're losing. Pascal knows the actual numbers. He knows that Trump was setting voting records and voting enthusiasm records in the primaries in state after state while he was running unopposed. Well, Pascal's not worried. He's not panicking. He knows what's coming. But the DC political class, from which the people running that GOP account are drawn from, they don't know that. They're all watching the fake news. They're all watching the DNC news media. See, this is why the GOP was never able to really do anything. Some people used to tell me they suspect there's something on the water up there. Once people move to DC, something happens to them. No, it's simple. They immerse themselves in a culture. That's all it is. It's a culture. And they immerse themselves in it. And the culture is heavily slanted to the left. It's the elite class. And so once you move up there, and once you become part of that class and you're immersed in it, I call this the DC Beltway bubble. You live in a bubble, And so that's why all the GOP people and the elite class from which these consultants running the GOP fundraising campaign, they're all drawn from that culture. And so they're watching this crap all day long. And they hear a drum beat, and in this drum beat, that Biden is winning this going away. Biden is so far ahead. Trump's got no chance. Biden now has a 89% chance to win. Trump only has an 11% chance. They hear this and they panic, and they sit there and they write some hysterical text message trying to get people, to wake up. We're losing, damn it, wake up. And they send it out, And there's some people that think, food porn is the best way to motivate people. You don't want people to get complacent. You want them scared. You want them terrified, okay? I've never been a believer in that, okay? If you look at Trump, I don't see somebody terrified he's going to lose. Trump knows he's going to win. He's not hoping he's going to win. He knows he's going to win, okay? So Pascal is running the numbers, and he's not trusting the national news media's polls. They're doing their own polling, okay? And he can check the results from the primaries and see the enthusiasm out there. And none of the national media's polls are reflecting that. They're telling you all the enthusiasm is with the Democrats. And it's all gaslighting, people. That's all it is. It's all gaslighting. So I don't get those texts. I didn't even know this was going on until Tracy Bean showed them to me. Okay, but that's why it's happening. So many people that tell me they don't believe fake news and they don't watch fake news media, that they spend all day immersed in it, and then they come and they want me to hold their hand and tell them it's going to be okay, and I think it would help if people were just smarter. They realize they need to stop listening to people that are lying to them. Okay, let's talk about the last subject for tonight's stream. That is Glenn Maxwell. I'm researching a new column I'm writing for the Epoch Times, and I'm trying to find any evidence, okay, that for the past year, Glenn Maxwell has been a fugitive with an arrest warrant out for her, and I haven't been able to find it. I haven't been able to find any evidence for that. See, we call it, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in July, and he killed himself in his jail cell in August. Okay, but from the time he was arrested in July, nobody saw Glenn Maxwell. Oh, she was caught one time. There was a picture of her being at some kind of burger place in New York City. But other than that, nobody ever heard or saw anything from her. And so the assumption was, I made a statement when I was writing this column that I'm working on, that she was a fugitive from justice for the past year. And I thought, well, wait a minute. To be a fugitive from justice, you have to know there was a warrant for your arrest. You have to know that, they've indicted you. And there was a warrant for your arrest, and you are evading the authorities. Was that the case here? Okay, I better go back and look. So, I went back, and I can't find anything in July 2019, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, or June. I can't find anything that says there was a warrant out for her arrest. Now, they've released a grand jury indictment. The date on that indictment, I believe, is June 29th. And she was arrested 3 days later in that raid on that estate on July 2nd, which, okay, that's 3 days later. So, if she wasn't indicted until June 29th, that means from July to the end of June, from July 2019 to the end of June 2020, she's not a fugitive. There's no warrant for her arrest anywhere. Now, that brings up some interesting questions. Okay, on top of this, other thing, that Sweeney, he remember his first name, the FBI agent that was at the press conference that Thursday that she was arrested, the Thursday they arrested her, Sweeney, who was the assistant director of the FBI's New York field office, he's there at the press conference, and he says that they have been keeping discreet tabs on Maxwell for the last year or so. They've known her whereabouts all along. They know where she was because they're keeping discreet tabs on her. Well, if they knew where she was all along, obviously she cannot be a fugitive from justice. So this narrative gets started that they didn't know where she was successfully hiding out, and there must have been some warrant to arrest her, and she's evading them. And that's not true. So we don't hear anything until they're arrested. Then, after she's arrested, they unseal the indictment from 3 days previously, and they hold their press conference. And they say some very unusual things during that press conference. Let me go ahead and quickly call up that column that I wrote about the Epstein arrest, how the Maxwell arrest proves the Epstein case is far from over. Linking that now. So they knew where she was. She was not a fugitive. She bought that how big that place is. Some reports say 123 acres, some say 130 acres. She's living in this estate, 123-acre estate since December 2018. That's 8 months ago. So they've known for 8 months that she was hiding out at this place in New Hampshire. If they're keeping discreet tabs on her, like Sweeney claimed they were. So she's not really a fugitive. They know where she is. So the question becomes, what was the trigger event that led them to suddenly take her into custody, with the raid that involved a massive amount of firepower? It's saying that this was over 20 fully armed, like a tactical unit, a fully armed tactical unit that went in there to take her into custody. It could have been more than 50 people, because I think the FBI agents are like 20 to 24, something like that. And then it says there were other people there, NYPD detectives and others. So it could have been a group of 40 to 50 people coming to take her into custody. And there are a lot of questions, and in this next column I'm going to ask some of these questions. Was she really a fugitive from justice for the last year? How hard were they looking for her if they were keeping discreet tabs on her? What was the trigger event that led them to suddenly decide to take her into custody, at that time? Why didn't they do that 3 or 4 months ago? So there are all kinds of questions that remain in the Maxwell case. So people make speculation about she's an intelligence agent, she has connections, she's working for the Mossad. I can't verify any of that. I write a column. I have to stick to what I can prove. I can't tell you what a pain in the ass that is. See, on Twitter I get to speculate all I want to. When I write a column and I turn that into the editors, they come to me and say, can you prove this? What's your evidence for this? And, well, if I can't prove it, out it goes. So it's a different bargain when you have an editor, and you're writing for an editor. So there are a lot of questions about this Maxwell case. There are a lot of things that are strange, that don't make any sense. We're seeing a lot of cases like that, So she's in custody now. She just had her bail denied. They were trying to get her bail today. They had a bail hearing, or decided a whole bunch of things during the hearing. But one of the things they decided is that she's not getting bail. She had 3 passports. She had $20 million in just one bank account. So this is the woman, she has citizenship in 3 different countries. The U.S., the U.K., where she's from, and France. And France does not allow its citizens to be extradited to the United States. So that's another question I have. Why was she so determined to stay here in the U.S.? She obviously had the means to smuggle herself out of the country if she wanted to. So why didn't she? And as a matter of fact, her lawyer said in the filing that they did, trying to convince the judge to grant her bail, that she made no attempt to leave the country in the last year. While she was supposedly hiding out, she didn't try to leave. Well, why not? If she makes it to France, she can fight extradition for years, because France does not extradite their citizens to the United States. That's why the Iowa Einhorn case was so complicated. It took 4 years to get that guy back from France, because he had become a citizen there. It took 4 years for them to swing that, for him to finally come back and stand trial in the U.S. and go to prison, where he died last April. I don't know if you knew that, but Iowa Einhorn died this April in prison. So why she didn't go to the UK, that's the place where it can be hard to extradite a citizen. Look how hard it's been to get Julian Assange extradited to the U.S. That's been going on for 2 years now. So she had 2 places she could have gone. Well, it would have been hard to extradite her from there, especially France. Very hard to extradite her from France. But the story is, she made no attempt whatsoever to leave the country. In fact, she goes and spends over $1 million buying an estate in New Hampshire, and she sets up camp there. And she hides out there for 8 months, from December to July 2nd of this year, when she was arrested. So there's a lot of questions, and of course, they can't tell us the whole lot. There's a reason investigations are done in secret. There's a reason they can't tell everybody everything about the cases they're building. So we're just gonna have to leave it there at that. And so that's our stream for tonight. Thanks for coming out and watching. I went a little longer than I meant to, like 1 hour 40 minutes so far. Oh, that's a lot longer than I wanted to go. I just want to say that I have a Teespring store. If you haven't been there yet, I would like to encourage you to take a quick look at my Teespring store. I call it the rise of the new media. We don't need the old media anymore. We're making our own new media. So let me link that for you now. I have all kinds of cool stuff there that you can get, including this awesome mug, which they sent to me, and well, it didn't quite make the transition. Oh, but it's still awesome. Yeah, Trump 2020. As you can see that, okay, kind of awkward there. Okay. And we have all kinds of hoodies and shirts and stuff, different logos on them. Trump 2020, because bleep you again, You can send a well-deserved message to the political elite class, because they obviously didn't learn anything from Trump getting elected in 2016. So, okay, that's my Teespring store. Just want to encourage you to check that out if you can. And thanks for coming tonight, and God bless, and we'll do it again soon.